Hello and welcome to another episode of Soundcheck. Now, for those of you that do follow us, you may have listened to last week's episode. That episode was titled Joe Bonamassa, Tom Waits and the Doobie Brothers. Now, you may be wondering, wow, what an amazing podcast. I really should follow and like and subscribe and all that jazz to it. And you're right, you should. But you may also be thinking, oh, that episode ended quite abruptly, just as I was starting to talk about Elvis. Now, there is a good reason that I did that, and that is because Wayne started to talk about Elvis. And you can't really just touch on Elvis. You've really got to get into the details of Elvis, and I believe that's deserving of its own episode. So this episode, which is probably going to be titled Elvis, is going to start where we left off last week. So I hope you enjoy.
Do you know I was speaking earlier about Elvis, and I have never been a big fan. I've never really understood it. I didn't get it. I didn't get the commercial side of it, and that's probably what it is. I don't necessarily lean towards the commercial side of anything. And so when I see the hype around Elvis, I just sort of recoil against it. I don't necessarily say, oh, his stuff is made with crap, it weren't this good, it weren't this. It's not for me. It just doesn't work for me. It just does not work for me.
When you say you recoil against it, is that I recoil against him or recoil against his style of music?
Well, that's actually a good question, Wayne. I don't really know. I want to put an answer to it, but...
Or is it a bit of both?
Probably everything.
The whole aspect of him as a person and what he does and what he sings, fetches out.
What, it's as I've got older and I've got more informed, it's got worse because I never got the pub singer. For me, he was just a glorified pub singer.
When you say that Elvis is a pub singer, isn't that just because pub singers would take off Elvis? They would try and imitate him.
Yes.
And that's what I see. That's what I see every time I see him.
Yeah.
It's some bloke in a bar.
Yeah, shut up.
We've all seen him. We've all seen him. And it just, what was the attraction? What was the, because Body 59...
He sent the girls wild.
Body 59 didn't become musically aware until 69, should we say, or a little bit later. So by this time, he's hitting Las Vegas. He's past the peak of his career.
Do you think it could have been the pelvic thrust that got into, the women went wild?
Well, no, it wasn't.
The men were at the bar.
No,
the women were all ripping the clothes off.
It never...
As they did the pelvic thrust in these big shoes.
I was more fascinated with the story behind the story, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. It became more interesting about Elvis, the story that was Tom Parker and the roots and stuff around the story. Not necessarily Elvis and his music. It was just the story of it himself. Well, not that fascinating that made me become an Elvis fan. It was just like, well, it wasn't necessarily everything that people thought he was, in a sense that Tom Parker used him as a puppet.
The stories behind Elvis are almost now a bit like a Greek mythology, aren't they? There's like these basic truths like, don't trust your manager. Or like, be careful of the drugs and burgers. Las Vegas, it'll get you. Don't fly too close to the sun. You'll end up fat and dead on a toilet.
There's a photo of him. There's a photo of him stood next to Nixon because he wanted
President Nixon.
Yes. He wanted to... Well, he wasn't the magician Nixon.
The magician Nixon and the white...
Well, he was a magician, actually. And he stood at, I guess, the White House, and he's getting presented as an honorary DEA agent, drug enforcement, and he's off his tits.
He's got a gun as well, hasn't he?
He's off his tits.
A gold revolver or something like that?
And he's on prescription drugs. But because he's on prescription drugs, he's not...
He's all right.
And he's really against people like Led Zeppelin because they are degenerates.
Who, Elvis?
Yeah.
Elvis met Led Zeppelin, though.
Well, he might have done, but he thought they were degenerates.
Because they were talented.
He described them as degenerates.
He was also a fan. Robert Plant.
I don't think so.
Robert Plant met Elvis.
Well, he might have met him,
Plant, yeah.
but Elvis thought that Led Zeppelin were degenerates.
I wonder what he thought of Tom Jones, because they were good friends, weren't they?
I thought he only met him twice.
No, they were good friends. He'd been to they were like best mates.
Yeah. Tom's been to his house on many occasions. Yeah, they were really good friends.
Well, fair dues.
It's not unusual.
Yeah.
And can I just say that I have been to Graceland.
I know.
And I'm not an Elvis fan by any. But if anybody really goes to Memphis, you must go to Graceland. The place is actually amazing.
Have you ever gone walking in Memphis?
I have. I've been to the Jungle Room. And I have stepped on Beale.
There's a pretty little thing down in the Jungle Room.
It's not as good as Beale, but the place is unbelievable. And that's from an
You say unbelievable. Is it just? Does it take you by surprise?
Yes,
or
it
does.
does.
It just say
it makes you think
how over the top or how under the top or how?
It makes you think when you're walking in there because of how the statue of Elvis is so big. You get to feel.
Is it as big as the one that floated down the Thames of Michael Jackson?
Probably.
I mean, that's history now, though.
Yes, it's when you go there. The place is just unbelievable. It makes you actually think like.
I don't believe you.
Perhaps this guy is, I underestimated him.
Or did you buy in?
No, I don't think I bought into it. And I don't think there's anything to buy into as in falseness. You just, if you go to Memphis, you need to go and see Graceland and have your own views on it. But you won't be disappointed. I wasn't disappointed. It was a lot more than I expected. And that's from a non-Elvis fan. I come out of there and I was like, wow, that's just unbelievable.
Wowzers trousers.
The old tour and the learning of him and seeing his suits and his collections of this, that and other. It was just like, Jesus.
I heard that his own sweat would clean his suits.
That was just unreal.
Yes, I heard that as well. That must be true then.
Yeah.
But it's not as good.
That means if two of us have heard it,
the more he sweated, the cleaner his suits would be.
Yeah.
But it's not as good as Beale. You need to go to Beale as well. Anyway, so we will go back to your thing of Elvis.
Yeah, where were I?
Your disdain for Elvis.
No, I've not got to. No.
Okay.
I'm
There's nothing about him you like. No tracks.
I tell you what I do like. I do like.
I mean, you've got.
I do understand.
Yeah, that's a decent.
That it played a big part in the development of music, although it wasn't an intentional manoeuvre on his part, or even Tom Parker's. It was just a natural development.
These things
came out at the right time.
Are you one of them people that can remember where you was when Elvis died?
No, I don't remember where I was. 1977, I would be.
I'm not worth
Don't look at me, Wayne. 86, I was born.
You weren't even born. I was
8.
I was in a caravan in
Memphis,
Great Yarmouth, with my mum and my dad and my nan and my granddad on the Vauxhall caravan site.
Oh,
all right.
And I was.
No, I wasn't 8. I was 18.
Sorry, I might have been 8.
Yeah, you was. You was 8. I was 18.
And Yeah, and I was in this caravan, and it came on the old 10 o'clock news with Big
the
Ben.
old 10 o'clock news.
Yeah,
as opposed to what the news comes on now at 10.
Yeah, but they don't do it like they used to, do they? Apparently.
Now they've got like a remix and a bit of a rap.
Oh, is it? Yeah, no.
This
was Trevor McDonald.
Trevor McDonald.
It's
a difficult name to say.
That's the very chap.
Yeah. It's got golden arches.
Yeah, I think it was him and all them malarkey come on and he says, breaking news, Elvis has died. And my mum and my dad were just like, what? Oh, no. I can remember my mum and my dad and my nan and granddad being just, they couldn't believe it. It was like they'd lost a member of the family. And I was like,
yeah, well,
all right,
Again, it's probably a generational thing that then, isn't it?
This guy that I mean, don't forget, I don't know what I'd have been in 78.
You'd be 8.
I'd have been 8.
You'd have been 78? Good Lord.
I'd have been, yeah.
You're like Benjamin Button.
I am. And I just thought to myself, God, the guy that I used to listen to every day has died. But at that age, you don't realise. I've heard his stuff from my parents and my grandparents playing it, and I'd seen films because I used to have to watch them. But to me, it was
quite
just,
aware of him. Obviously, you are. You can't avoid him, really. But it never made it was never a big deal to me. It would never.
So your parents and grandparents were not Elvis fans.
Strange enough, music in our house wasn't really like that. My dad was more like, he liked a bit of country and western. He liked a bit of military band stuff. My My mum liked a bit of popular stuff, things of the day, We'd listen to stuff on a Sunday, which were like, obviously there'd be Elvis involved in it somewhere along lines, but it weren't a big musical house, really. So I had no strong influences coming through in that respect.
Is that because your mum and dad want music lovers, or they just liked?
Well, they didn't dislike music. They didn't dislike music.
No,
they didn't
what I meant,
collect music, or they didn't.
No. If it were on, it were on. If it wasn't, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Here's a question from somebody who's not from that generation. The wheel was invented, I assume.
Well, no, actually, we were actually still working on that.
He had a bit of a, he had an oval.
I think we got to the oval.
We was working on the roundness of it. It was a little bit lumpy in them days.
But here's the question.
When you hit the edges.
So, was music as important to day-to-day life? Like, so, if for me growing up, music was...
I think
it was everywhere.
Personally, I mean...
Like, was it culturally as important? Like, I know they had brass bands.
I can't answer that, because I weren't of that generation.
But I know when I grew up, that music was culturally important. Like, music was a big part.
I would have thought that
your
dad would have been able to answer this more than me, but from what I can remember, music is way bigger now than I remember it or influencing it when I was growing up.
Right.
I think it's bigger now, music.
Music wasn't a big deal in our house when I was very young.
But in today, what's what I'm saying, so today's house, it is really...
So nobody played an instrument. It wasn't until later, when I would probably be in my early teens, where like my dad decided to play banjo because he was into country and bluegrass and things like that. So music,
but that's what I mean.
Music came to our house later.
So your family in today's life would probably be more music orientated, wouldn't they? I think music today is bigger than what we grew up with.
Yes,
it has
more access to it.
More
I
of
think that's
access.
The reason why.
It has a more of an influence within the household.
Yeah, if you look at the times that
there's a lot more music going off.
People define themselves by genres of music, don't they now?
Yeah.
If you look at what we got at the time, we had two TV stations, I think. Yeah. And two radio stations. That were it.
3. I can remember 3. I had BBC 1, BBC 2, and not Thames Television, ITV, Thames Television.
So in that respect...
But 10 years earlier than that, there was even less than that.
Yeah.
In that respect, can you imagine how exciting the prospect of Elvis would have been?
Yes.
To suddenly identify...
Yeah, you can understand why people went off the face.
Absolutely.
To claim something as, this is my music, this is my genre.
Yeah. Oh, I get all that.
Like, this is new. It was completely new.
All right, here's one for you. Do you think Elvis would have been big today?
Good question.
In what context, though? Like, how do you mean?
Would Elvis have been Elvis Presley?
You mean if a man...
King of rock and roll, would he have been in today's music, in today's...
I know what you're saying.
Genre? Would Elvis be Elvis?
I know what you're saying, but I think
it wouldn't work.
The problem is...
I don't think it would.
The reason we have the music today is because of Elvis. So, in order to...
No, I'm not accepting that.
I'm not buying that either.
It's not important whether you accept it or not. That's the truth.
No, it's not.
It completely is.
No, it's not. You've already said in a previous podcast that
I think he has...
Little Richard don't get enough credit.
Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit. But who brought the sound to the masses? Who does everyone refer back to? Yeah. Led Zeppelin refer back to Elvis. Yeah. The Beatles refer back to Elvis.
Yeah, I think Elvis had a massive...
Before that, go back to Little Richard.
You don't get the Beatles without Elvis. You don't get the Rolling Stones without Elvis. You don't get Led Zeppelin without Beatles.
No, you don't get the Beatles
without Elvis.
You don't get the Beatles without Elvis and Little Richard.
Yeah, but
I think Elvis's influence was massive, huge.
He is the anchor point back to the source.
It's part of the equation. It's not the equation.
Yes,
he's the majority of the equation,
but he's not. He's not the equation. I agree with you on that one. Yeah. Yes. You might not have come to the area that we're in now without him, but we would have moved on. And music would have grown.
I'm not saying that
grown
we would.
and grown.
Absolutely, but
like
I'm saying,
it does now.
But it would have moved on, but it would have been totally different than it is now. And I feel like sometimes artists have to die in order for us to transition. So I feel like Elvis completely had to die. Personally, I think that Michael Jackson should have died years ago in order for us to move on from Michael Jackson. Kurt Cobain died. Grunge. Jimi Hendrix, amazing guitar player, died. Freddie Mercury died. all these people that have made massive changes and successes, they die, and then things change afterwards.
So would you have said that Hendrix was big in music? Big
I think he created one large wave.
as in...
I don't think he was a tide. I think he made one splash, and that splash was like, wow, remember that splash?
Don't you... I mean, how many albums did Hendrix make? Or tracks did he fetch out? He fetched quite a few, didn't he?
Yeah, but he died, you know.
So out of all of those tracks or all of those albums, he probably had five decent...
But my point is, if Hendrix was still alive today, people wouldn't be as excited about him.
No, they wouldn't.
People wouldn't be noticing him.
No,
People
they
wouldn't
wouldn't.
be thinking, oh, we've got to listen to that.
No, because he would have had they
So-
all have their time.
Yeah, but
And their time it can be short, it can be 2 years, 1 year, 10 years. But they all have a period of time when it's their time. And that time that light will go out. And even if Hendrix was alive today, he would probably either, if he was still in music, he would be not the influential person.
So
he
could he?
was.
So
do
could
you-
he?
do you
So could he
understand what
come
I'm
up?
saying, though?
Yes,
Like,
I do. I know what you mean.
The fact
yeah.
that they die amplifies their...
Yes.
Their,
Yeah.
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 Does it
Yeah.
unnecessarily amplify?
In some cases, yeah, it does.
yeah.
But in the like
do
the
they
case that we're-
become
in the case-
worshipped because the
So in
legacy
the
was
last
left
previous
behind?
in the last previous podcast, do you think Hendrix comes in that category as slightly overrated?
No, I don't. I think
But
a lot of his music is
it's not.
overrated, but the 30% of his music,
I know he moved us on.
the 30%
Yeah.
of his music was in the terms of guitar-orientated music. It was an absolute game changer.
One of the things that he did was he didn't, even though it wasn't technically invented then, it wasn't coined then, he was using the cage system before it was the cage system.
Yeah.
And he got it from where? Does anyone know? Nobody knows.
No.
He didn't get it from these old
cage.
blues. He didn't get it from these blues players because they barely knew the elbow from their arse.
Well, yeah,
They
yeah.
just did what sounded right, which is fine. But Hendrix was like a whole new level of like, whoa.
I look at it as in. All right then. I'm not aiming this at you.
Oh, this is getting personal.
No, we're not. No, absolutely not.
You're an asshole, Louis.
But this is probably the best way of explaining what I'm trying to say. Is so you, as a big Rolling Stones fan,
Okay.
could name me 5 tracks from Rolling Stones without really thinking about them,
Yeah.
couldn't you? You could do that, couldn't you? Quite
yes.
easily.
Uh-huh.
Could you name me 5 Hendrix tracks without actually thinking about it?
So, The Wind Cries Mary, Red House, All Along the Watchtower, which is a Bob Dylan cover, Voodoo Child, Electric
Oh,
Lady.
you're starting to think about it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not allowed to think.
But that's
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
was saying. You have to,
Crosstown Traffic,
once you
Foxy Lady, Purple Haze.
Once you get them 7 or 8 tracks from
I
Hendrix
see-
out of way,
I see what you're saying.
You were
but,
stuck.
But you're referring to the popular tracks that people
yes,
should know.
but that's all he's
But-
all he's known for.
No.
If I'd have
no.
said to you, name me 15 Rolling Stones tracks, you'd have gone, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
blah,
but
blah, blah,
the
blah.
Rolling Stones,
And you
the
would have-
Rolling Stones have been around a lot longer than Hendrix.
And that's
Like for a young man,
yes.
to revolutionise
And
the
that was my
guitar,
point.
like to revolutionise the guitar, to be so good at the guitar as a young man,
Oh, yeah,
and to produce
I'm
the
not
songs he
knocking
did
him.
and the
I
covers he did.
just think
Bob Dylan has said that the best version of All on the Watchtower is Jimi Hendrix, and he wrote the song.
but it probably is. I'd probably,
It is
I'd
best
probably
version,
agree
yeah.
with that.
He made
yeah.
it his own, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yes,
he admits that
I
that
think
is the best
that
version.
track, I think you've got to give him that. Yeah. I just think he was, I'm not going to say overrated because he wasn't. He was just bloody good for what he did in that time.
I know what you're trying to say.
I just think his albums and his song.
If you take his body of work,
Let's go back
you
to a
can
couple
disregard
of.
70% of it.
Yes. So going back to 3 or 4 podcasts ago, when the skip button come in, I would use the skip button on Hendrix on a lot of stuff.
Here's I'll take your statement and I'll raise you.
Ooh.
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah. You see, I'm not a massive fan
Is
of
Stevie
his.
Ray Vaughan ever so slightly overrated?
I'm not a massive fan
I
of
mean,
Stevie
you
Ray
think of
Vaughan.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, you think of the Texas Shuffle, you think of that shuffle sound that he
But
does.
I'm not a massive. I was just about to say I'm not a massive Texas blues fan.
It's very good, but is it all one thing?
Now we're talking to a massive Stevie Ray Vaughan fan.
Hey, come on. It's got a bit of weight, but
no.
It's not only for that weight.
I'm a
It's
Stevie
been
Ray
a
Vaughan
good summer.
fan, but I'm not a massive Stevie Ray Vaughan fan.
You used to make me watch him just so I could watch him gurn.
Well,
He's a tremendous gurner.
well,
Like,
no,
nobody
you
gurns
see,
like
You
Stevie
used to
Ray
say,
Vaughan.
"Here, fat bloke, watch this." Yeah.
Well, at that
What
period,
Fat bloke is an endearing
this?
compliment. It's a familiar nickname that would refer to you as.
at that particular period in your musical development, you were still finding out about these people, and now we're just introducing you to different people.
And it worked.
It worked, yeah. And introducing to Stevie Ray Vaughan is an essential part of that development, I think, because everybody should look at Stevie Ray Vaughan, and they should, even if they're not really into either guitar music or Texas Shuffle or.
It's an ingredient to be aware of in the cooking
pop.
of music.
If you're into pop, then don't bother watching it.
It's someone that shouldn't be passed.
But I think he was like an antenna. I don't know how to describe it really. If he wanted to, he could stand with his guitar and he would be able to play all day. Because it seemed to just come through him. That it could naturally flow constantly through one form or another. Don't mean to say it were any good. There's certain parts of it were just endless. But did he make that big a difference on the music scene? We've got a lot of people that's followed on in that respect, that's gone down that route. And
Was he Hendrix but with a different accent?
I don't think he's influenced as many people as Hendrix did, because Hendrix completely changed the way we looked at music.
One of the things that I find interesting with this is specifically regards to guitar playing. So if you're not a guitar player, then bear with us. But I feel like anyone that's worth their salt, there's a certain criteria that you have to pass, and that's to do a cover of Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix.
Well,
Voodoo Child
Yeah.
is one of these songs where it's not specifically technical song. It's just, it's got so much aggression and feel and free spirit to it that you can expand on it as much as you like, and you can bring it home to where you want it to be. And I feel like it's a gateway to how are you at guitar playing. Yeah.
If you can dust that one down, then you've got a good chance of being respected by other fellow.
It's a gateway song, isn't it?
Yeah, because it is. You've got to really. You can't paint by numbers with that one.
I mean, you can, and a lot of people do, but
well, that's the problem.
It's not considered good.
That's the problem. People do.
It's a great song, open to your own interpretation of it.
No. If you're going to do it, if you're going to do it, you've got to do it religiously.
No.
Note by note, perfect, like Hendrix did it. You've got to give it your own little feel to it, but you've got to do it with conviction.
Oh yeah, conviction, yeah, but I don't think you need to actually do it.
Trying to do Hendrix's version.
That's what I'm trying to say. The song has got so much width in it that you can make your own song out of it. You can make your own version of it.
But you can make a very bad version.
Sure, and that's the thin line that you can cross.
Right, so this week I've been listening many things and blah, 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 blah. And tonight's conversation has got me even thinking it even more that I might have quite a valid point, because we're all talking about old stuff, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, blah, 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 blah. Do you think that the old bands who we all been speaking about, do you think they're going to have a sell-by date? Where we stop talking about them and we actually start talking about the things that's coming up around us now?
If you look at the Spotify playlist, people are hitting more on the old songs than they are on the new ones.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is, it's either why, or have they got a sell-by date?
Is there going to be a point where, I mean, Louis might still be, but me and you might have gone, where people go, Ledo, ooh.
There will be. That's just a generational
Led
thing.
Zeppelin.
They're
How many
going to keep
artists can you
referring
name
back
from the
to
40s?
the origins of rock music, like they keep referring back to Elvis as the rock music.
Yeah.
Well, I think they will.
What? There will be a sell-by date?
No, I think they'll always refer back to.
So you don't think there'll be a sell-by date?
No.
No, they will.
You reckon?
Yeah. They
Why
will.
do you think there will be?
Everything does. The greatest stars of Hollywood in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Nobody today will be able to name, really. And it'll happen.
Why are we still talking about Elvis then?
Well, it's just, there's still people alive when he died. So at some point,
Don't forget our generation.
yeah,
Yeah, because
Well,
you
our
just-
generation was alive when Elvis. It's Louis' generation that.
yeah,
you just spoke about
that
remembering when he was
the
when he
point.
died.
Yeah.
That is the point.
It's inevitable that
So
time will
when
pass.
so when our generation and the one under me goes, that will be probably the last generation of Elvis's living generation.
Well,
so
yeah,
then
I get that.
It becomes.
However-
Yeah, I
so
get
then
that.
will they be like Elvis? Oh, Elvis.
No, I don't think
never
so.
heard of it.
Because there's so much media-orientated information these days, as opposed to back in 30s where there was none. That's why then people are forgotten.
However, it will be there as part of the general opinion that they know about Elvis. Like we know about Bach and we know about Beethoven. You know, Beethoven and Bach and all that stuff where they were even documented in
No,
media.
exactly,
It was all written papers.
Yeah.
But obviously Elvis has got films and X, Y, Z made about it. But everything has an expiry date. Everything has a linear shelf life. It's like to deny that. Is,
No, I don't deny that. But what it is like the shelf life is extended as technology and as generations go on.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, in 300 years' time, maybe they're not talking about Elvis as much, or they're not talking about Led Zeppelin as much. But 100 years' time, I think they'll be just as much as they are now.
So, do you think that the old bands are actually stopping the new bands from coming through?
Yeah, they are. And it's not their fault.
No,
But they are.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it because we're still hung up on Rolling Stones and we're still hung up on AC/DC and Elvis Presley and all them that we're actually slightly neglecting the bands that are up and coming, but we still refer to the oldest style of music?
So you can say this within multiple art forms, whether it be paintings or, sculptures or whatever. And I think the closer you get to current day, I think there's more of an appeal of notoriety and fame. And I think that eclipses somewhat the art form itself. So in regards to, because we're talking about the Rolling Stones, they didn't expect that they'd have a career past the age of 30. So they just wanted to create good songs. And I feel like it's less about making good songs, but it's more about making hits. And I think that's the problem. I think the artistic credibility has been sacrificed for hits.
Yeah. Well,
Personally.
all right, yeah.
I don't know. When the Stones go out now, what do?
I'm not necessarily about now. I'm on about like when they were recording their the hits, their famous songs.
Yeah.
They weren't. I think they were trying to create great songs. The best song that they could think of. I don't think
nobody goes into a recording studio to make a bad song.
I know, I know that, but like I don't think they were just trying to make. I think they're trying to
But
make.
do you think it's stuff
I don't think they thought of it that way.
My point is that they assumed that their career was
A short-lived
limited.
thing.
Yeah, they thought,
Yeah.
okay, so I want to make something that means something, that
Yeah.
says something, and has an impact.
Yeah, but how
Today,
do you
I-
think that's holding the new stuff back?
Because people recognise weight.
But how do you know that? I don't know.
Well, they didn't know that at the time.
No.
No, that's the beauty
They
of
were
it.
making the best thing that they could, and they that's the way they felt.
And then
it should
the
be.
naivety of it is the purity of it. And the
Do you
best
think?
part.
Do you
Probably
think
so.
that? Do you think that the old stuff's holding back the new stuff from coming through?
No,
and,
I think
reaching the
I
potential.
think there's a natural pecking order within everything, and if it's good enough to come through, it will generate its own interest.
But how does
But
how
you've
does
got to
new stuff
understand-
come through?
What you've got to
With a lot of
understand
money
Rolling
thrown at it.
Stones.
you're looking at it from your demographic. You're looking at it from your perspective, and Louis, you're looking at it from yours.
But what we're not thinking about is yours.
No. What is now
I don't know.
the hottest thing out there? Now, it's not going to be the Stones, and it's not going to be Elvis Presley.
No, but we're not saying that.
No, we're not
We're
saying
talking
that.
about the longevity of
But
it.
we're not. Them
so
two
longevity
artists are
artists-
not holding back his artists.
But longevity
I
artists.
don't mean
are
that
probably
in a
going to be-
negative way. I mean it is. Are we still referring to? So if you put your Spotify on or the other forms of music streaming, do you say, right, I'm going to listen to Rolling Stones today, or do you say, oh, there's a new band that I heard called I don't know, this is a made up band called The Clockworks. I'm going to listen to them.
Yeah.
I can guarantee that in 20 years' time, people will be talking and listening to Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, and the Arctic Monkeys.
Well, there will be
I
because
push out-
of
Yeah,
that
there will be.
generation.
Yeah, but
It's
I'm
of that
like,
generation.
yeah.
What about 10 years?
What? 10
No,
years?
it's
In 10 years, will this talking
I
about
said
the
20.
same?
I
It's
said
probably
20
more
years.
relevant.
Sorry, right.
It's probably more relevant
I thought
to
you said
say
5
in
years.
40 years.
No.
So let's go 50 years then.
Yeah.
Will they still be talking
It will be
about
that
Taylor
generation.
Swift?
They'll probably still be talking about Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran.
Really?
No,
Yeah.
it was
What, in
that
50
generation
years?
that was saying, why we're still listening to Taylor
Wow.
Swift. What is she? No, I don't think it is. I mean, one of the reason we've got Rolling Stones around now is because they're a jukebox band that plays the hits. Louis alluded to this in a couple of podcasts since, where he said that all the hits that are being done on Spotify are the old stuff.
Yeah.
And because they're good, creative, inventive, and we're not getting that in today's music.
People are getting sloppy.
People are getting sloppy. And so they refer backwards towards the so-called iconic hits. And that's why the likes of the Stones, Journey, AC/DC, Def Leppard, they're all going out and becoming jukebox bands.
So-
Well, they're still as big as they are as what they were 30 years ago, aren't they?
Def Leppard are earning more money now
Yeah.
than
They're
they
still
were
up there.
back in 80s.
So Def
and they
Leppard's
earned a
still there.
shitload of money back in 80s.
I know, what,
Def
30,
Leppard re-recorded
30,
their
40 years ago.
stuff. So Def Leppard was screwed in a business contract, much like Taylor Swift at the moment. So Taylor Swift has gone back and re-recorded all
You got to
it.
think about Taylor Swift, haven't you?
She's current.
Shit, what?
Taylor Swift has re-recorded all her previous albums because she's been screwed in a
I couldn't
contract.
tell you one hit she's made.
So Def Leppard did that about 10 years ago. They re-recorded their music and took ownership of it. So when you play them now, it's a re-recording of it. It's not the original version. It sounds spot on, but it's a re-recording.
But
He's got another point.
I've got another point. I am.
You're coming up with some good questions tonight.
Yeah.
It's most unlike you.
It is. It's very unlike me. I've done a lot of listening and mooching about over the week. So I've also come across the fact that we're all going to agree that Rolling Stones and AC/DC and Elvis Presley and all them type of people we've talked about, they have ruled the roost for the last, 40, 50 years, haven't they? They've been at top of ladder and they've not really been knocked off by anybody coming through. These people tried, but they've just not got there. So, who do you think is the next Rolling Stones?
Oh, we don't know, do we?
Who do you think is around at the moment that is going to be the Rolling Stones
There isn't anybody.
of
I'll tell you. I know this.
who's
You
going to
know
be?
this?
Yeah, I know this one.
Who's going to be?
Wayne,
Who's going
He
to be?
knows this one.
Wayne, I'm going to
Go
tell
on,
you.
then, go on, then, do it. Taylor Swift.
No,
Don't
no,
please
no.
don't say Taylor Swift.
Daniel O'Donnell. I don't really know. Like Kanye's taken a massive dive recently. I don't know if you're aware of Kanye West and what's happened with that.
Yeah, it got.
Anti-Semitic comments.
Yeah,
didn't-
it's been
he's-
slated.
Yeah,
He does come out with some shit though, doesn't he?
He does. It's a lot of people like that. Oh yeah, speak Kanye, speak. But
No.
The thing is,
No.
you're praising an unwell man. He's got mental issues, and you're not helping the situation by encouraging this behaviour. I don't know if there are any real artists out there today who have the longevity to sustain 50 years, and that's not a reflection on them.
No.
It's more of a reflection on how fast the market changes.
What, from today's music, from yesteryear's
It
music?
just
type of thing?
like
Well, look at it 10 years ago.
it's the fast fashion.
The market 10 years ago was completely different to what it is
Oh
now.
yeah, it was.
And that's because the consumer ability, is that the right word? That the consumption of music is completely different from 10 years ago.
And the
What?
way that you consume music, so Spotify tracks have to get to the chorus as quick as possible in order to retain anyone's attention. So all the kids today are hooked on TikTok, and it's all about instant engagement. Catch their engagement as quick as possible, and you've got a minute to do it, and after that minute, that's it. They're on to the next video. So you've got a minute, you've got 60 seconds to get to the point of your song, and it better repeat itself because you've lost your attention after that. So basically, what the music industry is going to turn to is 60-second jingles.
What about people like Ed
It's all,
Sheeran?
yeah, I think that's the key thing, Louis. You're on a good thing there,
yeah,
because
yeah,
music is not becoming music anymore. It's becoming jingles.
Jingles.
yes.
Yeah.
What about people like Ed Sheeran though?
Jingles again.
They're all jingles.
Jingles.
So Ed
like
Sheeran.
We
Ed,
could say extended jingles, but
like
they are
that,
jingles,
yeah, I like
basically.
that.
Ed Sheeran.
It's a good way of describing them.
Ed Sheeran is
Christmas jingles.
a good artist. It is quite tactical in the way he performs. Like,
50,
he creates.
50 years today.
So one of the things that Ed Sheeran does is he will find trending topics or popular topics of songs, and he will write like 50 songs for each topic, say, and then he will pick the best one out of those topics, and then that will be an album. He'll throw enough crap at the wall, and whatever he feels sticks and hits all the keywords, he'll choose. And there's a great meme where somebody is holding up. Do you know those really cheap, cheesy? Do you know that cheese that's in plastic wrapping?
Yeah.
And you put it on a burger at barbecues. You unwrap it from its plastic wrapping.
Oh, right. Kraft.
Like cheesy
Cheese.
slices.
Yes, cheese slices. Kraft.
And the packaging says 10 cheesy slices, and the meme says Ed Sheeran's new album,
Right.
10 cheesy
10
tracks.
cheesy, yes.
Yeah, but it's a far.
There we go. Always good to end on a cheesy joke. I mean, that one was specifically cheesy, but anyway. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next week. Follow us for any updates that we might pop in the meantime. Bye!